Now I face out, I hold out, I reach out to the truth of my life, taking the faith.
Good day, boys and girls. It's a nice spring day out, so I decided I'd do another one of these state myths debunked. This time, it's one I like to call the original sin fallacy. You'll understand why in a second. Now, a common argument that creationists like to use is that the world is just so complicated. There's no way it could have arisen by itself. It had to have been designed by a designer, a creator, something like that. And of course, the obvious counter to this is, well, then wouldn't that make the designer himself complicated? And if that's so, well, then who designed the designer? And who designed that designer? And so on and so forth. So in that sense, intelligent design doesn't actually answer the question of how life and the universe came to be. All it does is defer the answer over. A similar argument can be made with statism. People say, "Oh, society's too complicated. All these people, we got bad people out there need to be dealt with. It's just all too complicated for society to handle itself. We need a state to handle it all." And of course, this begs the question. Well, if people can't govern themselves, they need a state to do this, and the state is made up of people, then doesn't that mean the state needs a state? And doesn't that state need a state, and so on and so forth? In the exact same way, it doesn't actually solve anything. All it does is defer the answer over. I call this original sin fallacy because it's based on that old idea that people are inherently evil, tainted, greedy, or whatever word you want to use. And it's a silly argument, really, because even if it is true, a democratic society wouldn't help anyway. Because if most people are, like in the case of welfare stuff like that, people say, "Oh, people are selfish pricks. They won't donate unless we have a welfare program." But if that's so, then you're essentially saying people won't donate themselves, but they will elect somebody who's going to point a gun at their head and make them do it. It doesn't make any sense. And to argue that is to admit that democracy does not work. Because if most people are selfish and don't care about the poor, then welfare is not a representation of what the people want. So no matter how you toss it, the whole thing just falls apart. It's ridiculous. Because I mean, or better yet, a principle I've thought about recently is when someone doesn't practice what they preach, well, the most obvious conclusion is that they don't actually believe what they preach. I mean, look at politicians. They say, "Oh, too much freedom is bad. The free market's bad. Capitalism is nice for a few things, but it's by and large cruel and unfair. We can't allow capitalism to handle all the really important stuff in society." And yet, take a look at what they do on those matters themselves. Like, we've all made fun of politicians who say that public schooling's awesome, and yet they send their own kids to private schools. I mean, George Bush did that, and I'm pretty sure Barack Obama does. I haven't checked. Or our politicians up here in Canada all say that socialized healthcare is awesome, and yet do you really think our PM gets on the waiting list when he needs something to see the doctor? Oh, hell no. Oh, the head of the Canadian Medical Association put his daughter ahead of the queue, kicked someone else off it. It's just it's amazing. But the basic message I get from it is that capitalism is nice, but it's only good for the elite. It's not socialism's for us peasants. So that's the big thing. Politicians say that socialism's awesome, and yet when they're given the choice, they pick capitalism. So just ask yourself, if they don't think that socialism is good, well, why should we? Just a little something for you to chew on for today, and I hope it was helpful. Until next time, as always, be aware and be wise.